And we're also growing out food because there's not a good food for fish or chickens. So this natural food, these are black soldier fly larvae. They are 42% protein. They come from a small black, a wasp-like creature that only lives 12 days, but it lays eggs, its eggs back into waste. And you get this larva that we're going to be using for fish food. And this particular 50-gallon drum I found in Mississippi had over 200,000. They were in some cotton, wet cotton seed that had rotted. That's what it looks like. Has no mouth, doesn't drink, doesn't eat. All its purpose is to grow out as an adult and lay eggs into waste. And then their larva acts as a waste reduction. They're a waste reduction creature, just like worms. So this is the back 40 now. That's what it looks like from the earlier shots you saw. We use compost on the exterior walls. We're growing without the use of fossil fuel in our climate. That gets down to sometime 20 below zero, 10 below Fahrenheit in the wintertime, sometimes for 5-6 days. 150-degree temperature created by a combination of wood chip, coffee grinds, and brewery waste to have that exterior heat on the walls. And then we're able to put piles of compost on the four corners inside, emitting a 150-degree temperature, and that's the reason that we can grow very intensively throughout the winter about 40 different types of vegetables. We're growing at about $5 a square foot, which equates to $200,000 an acre of production. And that's where we need to be. Because as we sit here right now, we're losing farmland and we're still losing farmers, rural farmers. So we're going to have to figure out how do we grow more food for that 3.1 billion new people and our current population on less land. So this is one of the ways. Intensive production, but it's all about the soil. If you remember anything I say today, the taste of your food is all about the soil. The nutrition of your food, it's all about the soil. So that's the reason that we have to recycle the waste to be able to grow this intensively. That's my grandson. I think he wants to be a farmer. That's my photographer's son. He's having a Zen moment trying to figure out how he fits in the food system, I think. And one of the crops that we grow a lot of is a crop that we've gotten into the Milwaukee public schools is kale. In the top 5 most nutritious crops that you can eat. So there are a lot of people eating kale today. It's almost an indestructible crop because it can handle really cold climates. And these are some of the exterior farms, outside farms that unfortunately we just started planting yesterday because we've had a terrible spring in Wisconsin and almost all over the Midwest and East and across the country. This is in Merton, Wisconsin, one of our farms, 30 acres. So you can find these small pieces of land, 30 acres, close to within a half hour of Milwaukee and a half hour of many cities around the country, including Atlanta, where we grow very intensively outdoors because you can't grow everything indoors. Things like corn and melons and things that need a lot of space. This is in Oak Creek. This is actually my farm in Oak Creek where we do composting as well as very intensive growing. Again, $5 a square foot. So we want to be at $200,000 an acre. The average farmer makes about $500 an acre with cash crop farming. Very intensive. It's all about the soil. We're even growing birds, I think. Tenth and North, I bought this building. This is a neighborhood. This is what this neighborhood looks like. I bought this 50,000 square foot building. This will be the fish hatchery that we so badly need. So this building has water towers on it. It was an old laundry facility where they did linens and so forth. So we're turning this old building into a fish hatchery. 50,000 square feet. We'll produce, at the start, 4 million fingerlings a year. But instead of just waiting until we get the building cleaned out and rehabbed, we started building on the 2.5 acres outside. We brought in our construction crew and we started bending pipe for hoops, and now we are growing food on this site. This is what we do. We build 2 of these a day around Milwaukee and in Chicago. To be able to grow, this was, we planted 30,000 romaine lettuce that went to Cisco, one of our customers. We grow for Cisco because Cisco is the delivery system into our public schools. They're the only way that food gets into the public schools is through Cisco. So we sell it to Cisco, and Cisco delivers it, our product, into the Milwaukee, Madison, and the other school districts. This is at our national headquarters, original building, where we grow on multiple levels. In other words, we're taking, say, 3,000 square feet of growing space by using multiple level growing and turning it into 5,000. This is high-valued space to be able to grow bedding plants for the spring, for outdoor, to be able to grow greens throughout the winter, watercress, sprouts that we grow at $50 a square foot. We turn over 4,000 trays of sunflower and pea shoots and spicy sprouts that go to restaurants each week. And that space, that's $50 a square foot. In an annual year, that's over $1 million of production per acre in an annual year if you get an acre of production. And mushrooms that take 3 weeks in these chandeliers. Shiitake mushrooms, we came up with a way of enhancing shiitake mushrooms by dipping them into our fish systems, the logs, overnight, once a month. And that cuts down on the time it takes to reach for them to start blooming. This is on a school property, on asphalt, 5 acres. Ash Plump, a national chipping company, brought in the wood chip. We brought in our compost. We built the buildings. This is on the lakefront. We have 35 houses there. That's a separate farm. So when collectively you put all these farms together, we have 25 acres of this type of year-round production. And then we have a 25-member harvesting team. Even before we get the plastic, we're already putting in new soil. Again, I emphasize that you need thousands of yards of soil, not just a few hundred yards. And the reason we get these kind of results is because of the fertility, the soil fertility, the worm castings, the compost, to be able to plant this intensively. And this is something we teach people that come into Milwaukee from all over the world. You can grow any crop. There's actually a greenhouse operation in Minnesota where they're growing fruit trees inside these hoop houses. So you can grow. Fire station, we're growing behind a fire station. 4 hoop houses, the battalion chief called me and he said the guys didn't want to cut grass anymore behind there because of their other duties, cleaning the equipment and that sort of thing. So they gave us this land and now we're growing behind a fire station in Milwaukee. 4th and Walnut, a friend of mine called me. They had a vacant lot where people were just tossing trash. We put up aesthetically pleasing fence. And now we have 3 houses growing food on that corner in Milwaukee. Cemetery. They used to have greenhouses at cemeteries. The cemetery director called me and he wanted us to take down the greenhouse. And I looked at them, I said they're too old, we couldn't reconstruct them. So I talked them into letting us use the greenhouses. So now we're growing at a cemetery greenhouse. We rehabbed it And now we're growing this food at the cemetery greenhouse, keeping people out of that upper left-hand quadrant a little while longer if they eat that good food. So my point is, we try to find places where we can grow food inside cities, the most unlikely places. This is at the cemetery greenhouse. Cisco, we have a corporate agreement with Cisco, probably the largest food wholesaler in the nation, that we're growing this year. We'll grow 250,000 pounds of carrots that'll go into the Milwaukee public schools, because that's how many pounds of carrots they use for the 190,000 students that they have. Those are the carrots that we grew, 100,000 pounds in 2011. Last year we had a crop failure because of the drought. But instead of giving up, we planted cabbage and greens, and were able to get that product into Cisco. And the relationship has grown to the point that now Cisco units all over the country want to follow this model and find local production to go into their system, because that's what everybody's asking for. They want locally grown, food grown without chemicals. And this is a training class teaching people how to grow sprouts so that they can go back to their communities and be able to grow sprouts. And these young ladies are harvesting. We do all of our own processing. We have a 50,000 square foot warehouse now where all of this product gets processed and gets out to our market. We have a very diverse marketing scheme to be able to get our food into every area of our community. These are some of the crops that we grow. Energy, renewable energy. We won't be able to do this without renewable energy. We need to control the cost of production. We can't use fossil fuel. We're using a lot of lights, a lot of pumps and so forth. Renewable energy. So I have a partner. We developed this anaerobic digester. It takes solid food waste. We grind it into a slurry on the exterior. We pump it in. Has PEX tubing around it to heat it up to 100 degrees to get the bacteria going. We produce acetic acid. Then we change the bacteria of the acetic acid into a high pH product and put it in a methane digester and produce methane. And then we scrub it clean and burn it in a generator to generate electricity. So this is a very important project. Solar energy. We built this pergola, put solar panels, produces a quarter of our electric needs. Solar hot water system provides 70% of our hot water. We work with 16 engineers on that, and of course compost, another renewable energy source to heat the greenhouses. We consider that a renewable energy source as well. In the four corners of our houses, emitting 150-degree temperature in the wintertime. How's our time? What's that? We're almost there. Water catchment. We capture 30,000 gallons of water in a catchment system off of our buildings and recycle that water inside to water the plants. We also use these exterior systems as fish systems as well. We have bluegill and lake perch. We also have goats. Our goats have just given off 25 baby goats. We milk these and make artisan cheese. We're 200 feet away from our neighbors. Goats are cool. Chickens, we have over 600 layers that lay eggs, and bees. We get over 100 pounds of honey from our 19 hives. This year we're putting in hives on our other farms. We have hives on a rooftop in Chicago at our Chicago headquarters. And we sell this honey as an urban honey. It doesn't last very long. It has a wonderful taste. Some of the projects I work on, and we work on, are working with disabled folks, kids with autism. We work with Badger Association of Blind. This young lady was able to learn how to seed a sprout tray and harvest totally blind in a half hour. high sensitivity to touch, and she was able to do that. Catholic Charities, immigrant farmers didn't want to play cards at their center. They wanted to garden. So I found a slab of asphalt on the far end of their parking lot. We brought in wood chip. We brought in compost. Now they have a garden. Kohl's Corporation, probably one of the most successful companies in America today. Over 1,100 stores nationally, started in Milwaukee. They're right down the street from us. We put gardens at their daycare center. And this year we'll be donating soil and putting gardens at daycare centers all over Milwaukee so these young kids can get a taste of what really good food tastes like at a very early age that'll change their pattern of their life forever. City of Milwaukee, the mayor called me and he wanted a garden like at the White House. So 5 years ago, we took out all the flower beds, brought in our soil, our interns. This is an intern project. They plant a very aesthetically pleasing garden, and we donate that to Second Harvest Feeding America. Rockwell Automation, another international company, wanted a farm stand. Discovery World, we put our aquaponics system so thousands of people coming to that facility can see what aquaponics is all about. Washington Park, working with the mayor and the city council person, we put in 40 gardens in one day in people's backyards. In the biggest food desert, we put a farm stand for 2 years as we built out this cafe. It's no other one in the nation in an area like this. Is a brand new build out of a cafe with all natural foods, organic food. And we keep supplies on hand that we can quickly build these. This is a project, a high school project, where these high schoolers use all green materials to build a 3-car garage totally off the grid. 2 senior classes, took 2 years to build out, but now this is operational. And they have a rooftop garden. We bought this facility in Madison, Wisconsin. That's the old school. We first built beds outside with our compost right on top of the grass. We were able to buy this from Dane County, and now this Badger Rock School agricultural curriculum that we developed with Madison School District that's now operation with all the STEM requirements. The Boys and Girls Club wanted a garden in the park. Again, we brought in compost because we don't want to go into the soil because there's arsenic and other bad guys. Maple Tree, another 20-year lease we have with the school board. It was dedicated a few years ago in a community that's 6 miles away, a lot of gang activity, 6 miles away from the closest grocery store. Now they have food. And working with the youth in the community and our youth corps. Many of these kids are now. We also work with communities around the country, the Blackfeet, where they're worried about extinction. 86% of people are related to each other. They lose 3 people a week in a town in Browning of 8,000 people. So they are starting with their youth to be able to grow. Mound Bayou, Mississippi, strategic planning, in Jackson, working with the Young People's Project, a math literacy project, but these kids realized they needed food. And in a state that's 50% obesity rate, they used to be number 1, now they're number 2 because West Virginia just recently took over 50%. What a shame. Buffalo, New York, another steel belt city that badly needs food. They put in 50 hoop houses. This is downtown Chicago. I like this image because here we are growing corn in downtown Chicago at this project. And this is probably the most aesthetically pleasing garden in the country in the front doorstep of Chicago in Grant Park. If you go there in the summertime, you'll see this, right by the Lincoln statue. 150 different varieties. It's called Art on the Farm, a French protege design of different colors and schemes. But using our signature growing, I hauled down 100,000 pounds of compost to build this garden. Cabrini Green, probably the most famous housing or infamous housing project in the world. Many murders have happened at this. As they take down the high rises, the Fourth Presbyterian Church bought this land adjacent to it. As gentrification comes from the east, they wanted to have this as a peace garden. and it's been a big success, 7 years in the making and operating. This is our new site in Chicago, our home base in Chicago, old truck terminal, turned into a farm. In Jackson Park on the south side of Chicago, working with Nature's Path of Vancouver that put in 39 gardens. This is downtown Chicago. Unfortunately, now there's a big building there. Lozano School garden. These kids wanted a garden, so we brought in compost on top of asphalt at Ames School and backyard gardens of seniors. We were at the Chicago Flower and Garden Show, the famous one from 2010. This is our display to show that gardens can be aesthetically pleasing. And these young people would probably be doing something not so good, but they're working on the farm in Chicago at Grant Park and our other 8 farm sites. And our CSA Market Basket program that I started in 1995, we deliver food throughout the year. And then overseas in Kenya, this is a landfill in Kenya, a rudimentary fence holding the garbage. They badly need soil fertility as well, so composting is something that needs to happen all over the world to get our soil right. It was working good there for a minute. So some of our work, Ukraine, another place, used to be the breadbasket of Europe. Now they're starting, now that the Russians are out, central London. Behind walls in central London, you'll find these little farms that are cropping up. People all over the world realize food is something that we can't take for granted. And we have these regional training centers at Fort Valley State is one we have here in Georgia. We also have one behind the King Center here in Georgia. This one's in Mississippi at the oldest African-American township that started after the Civil War by 2 slaves. Now people are coming back to their family land wanting to farm again. So we assist them. Another regional training center, 7 Harvest in Arkansas, Forest City, Arkansas, Breaking New Grounds in Louisville, Kentucky. Another training center, Lynchburg Rose, where roses used to grow, and the roses used to go in the Kentucky Derby winter. Now they're growing food and growing the lives of these young people. The Women's Environmental Institute working with Little Earth of Nations, an 80-acre farm outside of Minneapolis, working in the city, D-Town in Detroit, 169 square miles. Detroit is one of the largest cities territorial-wise. This group is growing 7 acres of vegetables. There are no retail grocery stores in the city of Detroit. 90 square miles of vacant land in the city of the 169 square miles. These folks are taking it upon themselves, being proactive and building hoop houses. In Columbus, Ohio, in a young lady's backyard, is another regional training center supplying food for her neighbors, healthy food, organic food. At the Forgotten Triangle, 25-acre ag reserve in Cleveland, this group is growing food and doing aquaponics, raising fish. And Blair Grocery, one of the only buildings, major buildings that was left. And I like this, it's unfortunate, but this is what it looks like. I took this image. This young man came from New York, and now they're growing food, and he's also a teacher, teaching kids that are not in school, that come there for education. Bed-Stuy in New York, and Brooklyn, another one. These 2 reverends who have a pantry, they're now growing some of the food to go into the bags, so it's not just canned salty food that they're putting in their bags anymore, and getting food from local farmers that come into the New York City. University of District of Columbia, we excavated this site to make a compost pad to grow soil for the programs in the District of Columbia, because you can't do it in the district, so the University of District of Columbia is the land grant for the District of Columbia, and they have a 140-acre farm in Beltsville, Maryland. So this compost pad was built. Now they're able to grow compost for the projects in the Washington, D.C. area. Getting there, almost there. And this is the future. First of its kind in the world. We're about 8 months away from breaking ground. This will be the first one, a vertical farm, a multi-use facility to house over 400 people on the second floor. The first floor will be a large retail store. We'll be able to produce food, have a commercial teaching kitchen to teach culinary arts to young people. And as we send them off to college, it's 15 feet away from our existing building. It'll be pretty much off the grid using geothermal. Thank you very much.
So I met you yesterday, and you said you were teaching farming. I'm just like, wow. I think we're all just stunned. I mean, it's incredible. So congratulations.
Hello?
Yes.
What are some of the hindrances for you to expand this movement in other cities?
Well, there's really no limitations in terms of, I think some of the things that we have to do is we have to find some passionate people that want to do this. We have, my book says, it's a good food revolution. As I go around the country and around the world, everybody loves this idea, a lot of young people. As a matter of fact, 70% of the folks that want to get involved in this are under 40 years of age. So that's the good news. Now, when you talk about farming, a sustainable farming, it's probably the hardest occupation in the world because there's, so many obstacles to overcome, so many challenges to overcome during the course. So you really have to be very passionate to survive many years of doing this kind of work. So we have to somehow take people along a continuum to make sure they have access to land. We have to change some of our policies so that we can get money for sustainable farm training. Most of the funding from our tax dollars in the U.S. goes to support large-scale industrial farming. So we need to reduce the amount of commodity dollars and put them into sustainable agriculture. That's what, there's a lot of challenges, but I think the number one thing is we have to grow some passion in people because everybody wants to do it. It looks very sexy to grow, to grow food, to see food growing like that, but not too many people really want to go through the pain and suffering of learning how to do it because it's a hands-on process. You can't learn how to do it in a classroom. You have to do it out in the field. That's where you learn how to do it. Anybody else? Yes.
Thank you for that presentation. There's a lot of information there. It was, you have a lot to teach. I have a technical question. The compost outside the greenhouse, how exactly were you using that to heat the greenhouse? Were you burning it, or what was the process in that?
The process, in my research, I found that combining wood chip, coffee grinds, that we get thousands of pounds of coffee grinds from roasters, and brewery waste creates the most heat. So what happens in a greenhouse or any building is the cold air comes from down below. So we put compost around the exterior walls, and that heats the exterior walls at about 150 degrees if you put enough compost there. And then in the four corners inside, we mix that mixture and put it in the four corners. And then you have to put 2 feet of wood chip on it because what you're creating is a condition that would give off ammonia. So you have to filter out the ammonia because ammonia, first of all, will make you sick if you're in there. Second of all, it'll turn all your plants white. So you have to filter out that ammonia. But you get 150-degree temperature emitting from those 4 piles in the 4 corners. And then you have 2 layers of 6 mil plastic over the house. And then when it gets 25 degrees or lower, we use plastic covering each bed inside. There's 4 beds in a 20 by 96 foot house. So that's how we keep the plants from, freezing. And remember, these plants that we're planting are plants that can withstand a frost, but not a sustained frost. If it stays frozen for 2 or 3 days, no. So that's how you protect them, and that's how you capture the heat in those tunnels.
So Lisa's asked that we save the rest of our questions for the breakout session, but she's letting me sneak one of mine in because I'm holding the microphone. So I'm just wondering, since we're a room of people in a textile industry, do you ever compost textiles? Are those able to be composted, and are they valuable to growing soil?
Well, I would say some of the stuff, especially the material I saw that, what do you call that, Lisa? That stuff that goes in cars and stuff that somebody showed me when I was walking in? The padding? Yeah, that padding material. Yeah, I could see that going over beds that would protect the plants at night. Of course, you'd have to open it up during the day. But if you imagine putting plastic over and then putting some of that material over, if it was cost effective, I don't know. Also, on the in walls, the doors and things, they have that material as a drape that would keep air from going through the cracks in the doors and things like that. So I see that being used. Can you compost that material? Probably not. But those other uses, I just, you just have to be creative and come up with ways of using that material if it's cost effective. I don't know what the cost is to be able to have enough material that'll go 4 feet wide all the way to the back of this building, Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.